Hey everyone, welcome. So this is going to be a Premodern League with blue-white Replenish. Let's see, it's a deck I played when Parallax Tide was legal, and a bit after Parallax Tide was banned. And then I got away from, and now I'm interested in getting back to. Let's see, so the biggest thing is that Exalted Angel is a card that you normally see in the sideboard, and this of course is a creatureless 75. I don't think Exalted Angel is as good as it used to be. I mean, without the Tide plan, you kind of lean pretty heavy on it, and so like your Moneyball black opponents, like that's kind of the matchup that we're trying to not lose to here. And they're just going to have their Smothers post board and attack you with some pro-white dudes. So what are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to bring in some Wrath of Gods and Chain of Vapor. So specifically, the plan against Moneyball is going to be to board out 3 Frantic Search and in a Chain of Vapor and 2 Wrath of Gods. Chain of Vapor hits Gloom and Knight of Stromgald and Tormod's Crypt to let us do our thing, and then Wrath of God certainly hits their pro-white creatures, and we'll keep their man lands locked down with Tsabo's Web. That's the plan in any case. And then what to do against Goblins. So Goblins is part of the reason why Chain of Vapor is in the deck as well. There's this thing where they're going to have some Tormod's Crypts post board, but you really don't want Seal of Cleansing. So Chain of Vapor can bounce Tormod's Crypt, or it can just bounce Parallax Wave in response to exiling a bunch of goblins. So the plan against goblins is to bring in some Blast, the Wrath of God, and the Chain of Vapor, and board out Seal of Cleansing and Decree of Silence, which, I don't hate the Decree of Silence, but I mean, if they have a turn 1 lackey, it doesn't do a whole lot. So that is where I've landed. Against control matchups, we're just going to try to jam Defense Grid and go off, but we also have Abeyance to assist. Chain of Vapor can bounce Meddling Mage. And I think that hits most of the major matchups. Yeah, Meddling Mage is a pretty good sideboard card, so maybe I'll regret not having it. But just, I don't really have anything else from the main deck that I want to cut. Yeah, so like against Esper Togs, which is all the rage, I'd cut my Frantic Searches because they're card disadvantage, and they don't have anything like Rishadan Port or Wasteland for Tsabo's Webs. They might have some Crypts or Phyrexian Furnaces and Mox Diamonds. But I don't think I really want more than 2, or maybe 3 would be okay. But I mean, I want to bring in the Defense Grid and the Abeyance and the Chain of Vapor. I don't know like how I would be fitting in 4 Meddling Mage on top of all this. So that kind of explains how I landed on the deck. I'm definitely a person who likes to just have like a pretty mapped sideboard to make up for my, medium technical play. So, yeah, this is what we're going to do. It's blue-white Replenish. All right, let's go. All right, the match is up. Let's see, this hand. We're on the play. So the lack of blue mana here is unfortunate. We don't have any kind of interaction, so this is just exactly the wrong mana. So on the play against the blind. I mean, if we draw more lands, which our deck plays a lot of, this could be okay. I think I'm just going to mulligan this one. All right, I think we're going to keep this one. And then what do I want to put back here? Probably just the Frantic Search. But maybe you can make a case for Opalescence. I'll go with Frantic Search. We'll play an Adarkar Wastes and pass. Exploration. All right. Well, Enchantress is going to be a good matchup if we get to do our thing. Frantic Search could definitely help us do our thing. We have a painful mana base here, but Enchantress should not be able to punish us for that too hard. A Seal of Cleansing. And they just go right after my Attunement. Well, I will pop the Attunement. All right, Opal, Decree. I'm sure Swords is fine to get rid of. I'll get rid of this Pain land. All right, no Enchantress effect from the opponent. All right, pass into our turn. Okay, so probably the responsible thing to do here is to just play Attunement and pass. It doesn't seem like they're about to pop off and kill us too hard. All right, so tap Skycloud Expanse, tap Ancient Tomb, play the Attunement, pass the turn. And so now it's just the question, when will we draw Replenish? Sooner or later? There's a Sterling Grove. There's the Wave. All right, I'm just trying to think if it matters here to start with Frantic Search or not. I think I can just start with Attunement. Okay. None of those are Replenish. So let's see, I think I can take a bunch of damage this turn. And Frantic Search plus Attunement. I guess I could Attunement twice and be pretty set up for next turn. I think is what I can do, plus Frantic Search. All right, I'm just gonna keep going for it. I could just lead on the Frantic Search now. I think I'm just gonna take a bunch of damage here. Play the Frantic Search. See if we draw Replenish. Well, there's Intuition. So let's see. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That seems like enough to do the thing here. So I'll discard these two. Untap some lands. And then, yeah, this is definitely enough. So we'll tap this, play Intuition, targeting my opponent. Grab 3 copies of Replenish. All right, and the opponent sees the writing on the wall. So I'm gonna board out 4 swords in a web. I guess my sideboarding mapping lacks 1 card for the Enchantress matchup, as we have this extra web. It does cycle, and it's just a 1-of, so I think we can live with it. I mean, Chain of Vapor is not the most exciting either, but we just don't have that many cards to bring in. But Enchantress is, generally speaking, a pretty favorable matchup. They certainly could have some Tormod's Crypts that we want to bounce so we can do our thing. All right, well, this hand has some Ancient Tombs, but no colored mana. This hand's a little unfortunate. All right, well, this hand does some things. I'm going to put back the chain. And then I guess it probably has to be Parallax Wave. All right. Miri's Guile from the opponent. Intuition could set something up. Playing the Adarkar Wastes here in case we draw Ancient Tomb. We can play some of these blue spells. Windswept Heath. Do we have an Enchantress? Yes, we do. All right, so I have a bit of a decision to make about whether I want to just go ahead and seal this Miri's Guile. I think it's probably for the best. The less enchantments they have in play, the worse their Sarah's Sanctum is. And just doing nothing doesn't seem very good. We'll pass it back. Here's an Argothian Enchantress. It looks like they may be short on lands. Tormod's Crypt. All right, well, that'll make things interesting. Well, we drew another land. So that is, I mean, that's good. Most of our spells cost 4. And then we're just going to have to figure out how we're going to dance around this Tormod's Crypt. Another Enchantress, okay. I guess that maybe I should have held onto the seal, but I mean, the Miri's Guile helps them find everything that they're looking for. So I think maybe the play here is to just Frantic Search and see what we're drawing. That'll help us know what we're intuitioning for. And we can discard the Replenish, quite possibly. All right, well, we're drawing more lands. Okay. All right, we'll keep the basic island. We'll untap 3 lands. So maybe what we want to do is just intuition for attunement then. And there are some lines that we can set up against Tormod's Crypt with Replenish. So grab the 3 attunements. And we'll start our turn. Another island. Yeah, I think we can play this out. Play out the attunement. Pass the turn. So we could find Abeyance or Chain of Vapor. And then also, we can play Replenish. And then activate the attunement when they go to Crypt. Well, you let the Crypt resolve, and then attunement. So this would be a good spot to draw like an enchantment that does something. All right, they've played a whole bunch of cards. Another Crypt. Well, that's going to make things tricky. So now I can Replenish, they Crypt, I attunement. It's pretty hard to beat the second one. So I think what we're going to do, I can play out the Opal, and then they just need to find their own. Parallax Wave. I guess that doesn't hit the Opalescence, though. Because Opalescence doesn't make itself into a creature, so they can't nuke our whole board. I guess I'm not going to attack into all their stuff over there and keep this thing on defense. Well, they have a Sanctum, so they have infinite mana. Here's a Parallax Wave for the opponent. They're going after the attunement. Okay, we drew some waves of our own. That doesn't hurt. They're going to draw some more cards. I guess at this point I can just F6 through their turn. Play an Exploration, draw another grip full of cards. Tap their Sanctum for 8 mana. Oh, Aura of Silence. And another Aura of Silence. Okay, I think we can call this a wrap. On the play, I don't see changing anything, so we'll just run it back. So this hand does the thing on turn 4 if they don't have any interaction. I think it's a begrudging keep. So play Flooded Strand and pass. We'll fetch to thin. They did keep their 7. It's a little worrying. Got Mirri's Guile. So crack this island. I'd love to draw an Ancient Tomb here. Not quite. Play an island pass. A Wild Growth into a Sterling Grove. Okay. If they get double Sterling Grove out, it's certainly tricky. Decree of Silence. Okay. All right, I'll play an island here. And the big question is how broken can they go this turn / just play Tormod's Crypt. There's a Presence, and they just pass. Okay, so we get to Intuition. And we'll just have to get the fearsome threesome here. They give me Opal Wave. Interesting. So I'll play Replenish. All right, so we can kill the Sterling Grove. They crack Sterling Grove, that makes sense. They go for Seal of Cleansing. So that'll let them go after the Opalescence. But we get to remove the Mirri's Guile and the Argothian Enchantress. And we'll just have to rebuild with Intuition. There's the seal. Let's see. I guess if they let me pass into my turn, that works for me. It's gonna let me have the wave stick around another turn. Attunement, eh? Let's see. I don't know if I just want to Intuition for 3 Opalescences here. I think playing the Attunement's probably fine. They only have 2 cards in hand, and we get to hold up. Decree of Silence starting next turn. I guess I'm going to start with an attack. Okay, they go after the Opal. We'll reset the wave. And then, yeah, I think this Attunement is fine. Got Replenish from my opponent's a little scary. But I guess at this point it is just the Seal and the Sterling Grove. And then we can work towards Intuitioning for Replenish, or yeah, just holding up Decree of Silence. Another Seal, that's fine. Well, there's an Opalescence, so we don't just want to hard cast that. But we can Decree of Silence. Yeah, the next thing they do that matters. They only have like 2 cards here. They're down to 1 card. So because if I have 2 Opalescences, there's really not much they can do. So I think we've pretty much won. So I'll just pop the Attunement here, see if we just draw Replenish naturally. We don't, but we draw a bunch of other stuff. And then we can play Intuition. All right, and once again, they see the writing on the wall. On to round 2. All right, up against Max the Rippas, who's been on Goblins every time I've played against them. And they have a lot of results for Goblins as well. With this hand, well, this is definitely a keep. A bit of a question about how I want to play out my mana. Probably just have to lead on Flooded Strand. All right. All right, they're on a mulligan to 6. You know, I think I'd actually might prefer to have the Adarkar Wastelanded instead of like Ancient Tomb. Although the white is all looking pretty good. I think I'm just going to throw the wastes out there. Skirk Prospector. So is this something I want as swords? It kind of seems like the least good swords target. Like War Chief, Pile Driver. Yeah, I don't think I want to burn Swords to Plowshares on that. All right, more lands. That doesn't hurt. Let's see. I think I'm just going to play out the Flooded Strand here. Like Intuitioning for Replenish or like anything else just doesn't really seem that great. And we just have the stuff in hand rolled up. So I'm just going to pass the turn. All right. They play a land. Here comes the Skirk Prospector, attack for 1. And they don't convert it into a War Chief or a Matron. Okay. I think I'm okay drawing lands. So I think we'll just go ahead and deploy the Parallax Wave here. If something goes too wrong here, like I guess if the Wasteland gets Ancient Tombed, we're a ways off the Opalescence, but I think the Parallax Wave should be around for long enough. But they are just cycling Incinerators and not playing Wasteland. Okay. So we'll tap Ancient Tomb, tap the Skycloud Expanse, play Opalescence, get in for some damages, and the opponent concedes. All right, we get to try out our fancy sideboarding plan here. So we'll bring in these guys. Sphere of Law is definitely for the burn matchup. It doesn't stop them from playing huge pile drivers. We've got Wrath of God. Yes, this is what we're going to send. All right, we're on the draw here. The opponent's keeping 7. We've got some interaction. It looks like a keep to me. Turn 1, Mog Fanatic. Not as threatening as it could be. So which land do I want to play? It's kind of the only question. Like, am I going to want a Swords of Pile Driver? I guess I'll just play out the Adarkar Wastes here. Because we probably want to... See, now I need to kind of think about swordsing this Mog Fanatic. Because we are going to want to do something on turn 3. Is this worth sorting? You know, I guess so. We have the Wrath of God for later. But just the way, like, Intuition was going to chew up our mana curve there. Well, we drew another Adarkar Wastes. So I think I'll play out this Skycloud Expanse here. We don't have a Swords to Plowshares or anything else. We could bluff it. But then we take like 3 damage off of tapping the Ancient Tomb next turn. Swords, that's not bad. So I'll play the Ancient Tomb. I think it's going to be a Frantic Search in their end step. They're just passing. So they probably do play a bunch of Red Blasts. So maybe I just want to chill here and not take excess damage. They probably like want to tap out for a Ringleader. And then that takes them off the opportunity to play a Red Blast. They are just passing though. That seems fine with me. Tsabo's Web. Okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead and play the web here. Draw a card. It's a Chain of Vapor. All right. 2 mana for a Pile Driver. And they are comfortable just passing on the Pile Driver. I think that still works for me. I probably don't need to play this other Ancient Tomb. I'll play out the Adarkar Wastes. So if they just want to attack for 1, I think we'll allow that. Matron. So what's this going to get? A Ringleader? If it's like a War Chief... I think we still would just take the damage. And then play Wrath of God. So they get in for 1. So I think I'll pop off the Frantic Search here and see if they want to Red Blast that. We have some cards we can discard. Okay. I guess I'll leave the island up. Okay, they have the Red Blast. That indicates to me they probably have more Red Blasts. What would really be great is just to kind of draw the Opal Wave, but we are not getting close to that happening. Let's see. So we just have 6 mana here. Maybe I do play out the Ancient Tomb. We'll tap these Skycloud Expanses, play the Wrath of God. See, I just don't have anything that is that exciting to Intuition for, unfortunately. They tap 4 for a Ringleader. Okay. I've got the Goon. They're going to get in for 2. And these Chain of Vapors just not looking very good. Although if we did hit Parallax Wave, yeah, I guess that would look good. There's a Crypt. Okay. So let's see. I could bounce my web and replay it just to draw a card. I could play Intuition. And then, well, they're going to have their Crypt, so that won't be very exciting. I guess I'll play Intuition, and if they let me get Parallax Wave plus 2 chains seems pretty solid. Yeah, it does eat a red blast. There's a Hydroblast. All right, well, we can pass. They're going to attack for 2 here. So I think we can... Do I want to Swords this? I guess it's going to kill me eventually. All right, we'll Swords it. All right, it's sorted. Now here comes the Goon. So what I might do here is Tsabo's Web, bounce Tsabo's Web, and bounce their Goon, and sacrifice an Ancient Tomb. Would that be wildly hubris? No, I think we still have a lot of mana. Yeah, I think I'm going to try it. I mean, I could bounce this Tormod's Crypt. Maybe I'm getting carried away here. We don't need to do this now. Like, we draw the wave. Replenish. Well, it's a good thing I don't have any enchantments in the graveyard. All right, I'm going to pass. So here comes the Goon attack. So I think I'm going to do the thing where I Chain of Vapor my Tsabo's Web. I'll sacrifice an Ancient Tomb. Target a Goblin Goon. All right, the Goon is bounced. The Goon has returned. And a Goblin Lackey. Okay. So I would still like to draw a Parallax Wave here. An island. Not quite. Let's play the Web. Still not a Parallax Wave. So we can kind of make the same play. Maybe bounce the Goon. Hydroblast the Lackey. It seems like they don't really have anything to put into play. A War Chief. Man, they just have all the dudes over there. So I expect their last card in hand is not a Goblin, and so we don't have to fear the Lackey too much. But now I'm thinking about it, I guess I'm going to let the War Chief come in and just Hydroblast the Goon. I should have played the basic island last turn, so that we don't have like double blue here without tapping Ancient Tomb. Oh, no, I have to tap Ancient Tomb anyway. Okay, well, I guess we're doing it. Yeah, I definitely should tap my mana better. Use one of the Skycloud Expanses to play Tsabo's Web. Okay. So, let's see. What do I want to Hydroblast here? I guess whatever it is, it's going to come back down. Like, whatever I bounce, I mean. Let's destroy the Goon. Let's bounce the Chain of Vapor. Sorry, let's Chain of Vapor the Web. Let's sacrifice Ancient Tomb. And guess I'll just bounce the War Chief. What I should have done here is just not played the Chain of Vapor and tried to draw Parallax Wave. Because now I don't have any... Parallax Wave is just pretty naked on its own. Hydroblast, that's alright. Okay, let's tap properly this time. Play the Tsabo's Web. Draw a card. A Parallax Wave. Speak of the Devil. Let's see. I don't have double blue this turn. Double white, I mean. I think what we'll do here is just... Maybe their last card in hand's Anarchy. Alright, I'm going to let them probably just clank in for 3. And hope they did not draw like a ringleader here. Another Lackey. Okay. Lackey's in. Taking some damage. Got some Lackey triggers. Another land. Okay, so let's see. Let's play out the island. Let's tap some Skycloud Expanses. Let's play Parallax Wave. Let's wave some boys. Yeah, I think I just have to take out all 3. It doesn't give me much time to draw Opalescence. There's the Anarchy. Here's the Hydroblast. There's a War Chief. So we kind of just have to take this here. And we're like hoping to top deck Opalescence. That'd be pretty crazy. A Plains. Well, that is not an Opalescence. I guess I'll play it out. Mog Fanatic. Alright, so I guess we're waving the War Chief. Otherwise, they attack for 3. So we lose our Parallax Wave here. Which is pretty rough in the face there, Tormod's Crypt. Frantic Search. Gonna do some digging. Another Parallax Wave. Let's see, so 1, 2, 3. I've got to exile 4 cards with this. Doesn't really improve our situation. Untap. Let's see. So I can't Parallax Wave plus Replenish. I can just play the wave. And I guess we're just buying a turn here and like trying to draw Wrath of God. And then I don't know from there. Exile Fanatic. Wow, they let me do it. But I suppose if I ever let the Fanatic come back... like if I could let them have the 2 lackeys, but then at some point the Fanatic gets to come back. So that's not great. It means I have to... a Matron. So this can go and get a Ringleader. That can attack me down to 1, and then the Fanatic comes back at some point. All right, they've got it. Okay, I think we can just send it back. Without Parallax Tide, I mean, the deck is pretty dependent on drawing Parallax Waves and Opalescences. They did successfully Red Blast a bunch of blue spells that were good setups. Good setup spells. Okay, well, we have a hand that loses to Goblin Lackey and Red Blasts. but could maybe set up an intuition. I think it's kind of questionable. It's just really slow and lacks interaction. All right, this one has some interaction. So I think I just want to put back the Chain of Vapor. And then we'll lead on Adarkar Wastes. If we get our only white source wastelanded here, that's unfortunate, but at least they're not developing their board. All right, that's just what happens. Yeah, that's not a bad draw. So if they play like a lackey here, we'll just have to pass and like swords on our turn and not get this turn to Attunement down. All right, well now we can try this Attunement, see if they got a red blast for us. They do. There's a pile driver. I'd like to just ignore the pile driver and Hydroblast, like the war chiefs or the ringleader or the war chiefs. I guess I would swords the war chief here. They're just gonna port me and get in for one, huh? They're gonna go for a matron. Well, that seems worth hydroblasting. And they've got the Tormod's Crypt. Well, there's a Chain of Vapor. I can bounce a Tormod's Crypt. I mean, this is probably my window to play Frantic Search. It's just that there's nothing I really want to discard to Frantic Search here. I could just tap what I have. Like not play out the Adarkar Wastes and take 2 off the Ancient Tomb. I guess that's the plan. It's not great. Gotta be mindful of time. Put back the Adarkar Wastes. And I guess the Chain of Vapor, the other Chain of Vapor is on the bottom of our deck. But I mean, we need these swords. Play the Expanse. We're gonna get torn up pretty good by this port. They've got double port. So I guess I'm gonna swords this pile driver and avoid taking more damage. A goon. We probably want to swords that too, but maybe we draw a wave. An intuition. It just doesn't really do anything here because they've got the crypt. So we'll let them attack and swords the goon. So I guess they have like anarchies and red blasts in hand. A siege gang commander. So I could intuition for like Wrath wave here. See what they want to give me. I guess we're doing that. Okay, so they give me the wave. We drew Chain of Vapor, which is actually pretty good. Okay. So I'll play out the Parallax wave. I guess we're just going to do the shenanigan right now before they fling any goblins at us. Well, there's Chain of Vapor, at least doing what it's supposed to. So they're just passing. So their last card must be Anarchy or Red Blast, I suppose. Feels like Anarchy. Tsabo's Web. Yeah, we'll play a Tsabo's Web here. I mean, our life total is dangerously low, but not much we can do about it. We need to like fade ringleaders and matrons. Looks like we did. Here's an island. So if we could just land Opalescence, but then I'm sure they've got Anarchy. But these swords will certainly buy time. There's a Rishadan port that won't untap. Frantic Search. I don't think there's much use in throwing a Frantic Search out there at this point. An Ancient Tomb. I guess I'll keep that in hand. I don't really want to tap the tune, and we could discard it to an Attunement or a Frantic Search. A Ringleader. Well, hopefully this misses. It did the opposite of that. The old 3-for-1. Mog Fanatic and Siege Gang and Matron. Okay, well, let's swords the Ringleader. And they just pass. So that would indicate they have a Red Blast. All right. Let's see. I guess I'll pass. They have 5 lands, so how are they going to tap for this Siege Gang? Well, they're going to Matron. I guess that makes sense. They get a Lackey. They play the Lackey. Well, I think we're going to get a Frantic Search countered here. Here it comes. There's the Opalescence. All right. Well, we'll play out the wave and hold up a Swords to Plowshares. They tap out for Siege Gang. Okay. So we're at least going to get to do some work here. I should have sorted the Lackey in response. Although I guess they could have just flung something else with the Siege Gang. So here's the swords on the Lackey. And man, maybe what I should have further done is actually just sorted the Matron, because that's the one I don't want to blink with a wave. And we're going to blink the rest of their squad here. Here is the Opalescence, and I guess I need to tap differently for it. There's a fling. All right, we'll exile the squad. All right. Now, do they have Anarchy? Wow, looks like they don't have Anarchy. They do have a lot of life, though, so we got to try to kill them quickly. Another wave. That's pretty... It's all right. Here's the wave. It at least increases our clock. There's another crypt. That doesn't change anything. Let's yield to these. So we can attack. We'll blink. We'll get out this Attunement. I'm sure that'll lead a Red Blast or not. So now we're in this spot where if they find the Anarchy, we can exile our other enchantments to one wave. And then Anarchy resolves, we get those back. We're missing Opalescence, but maybe we can just find it off of Attunement or this Frantic Search. There's a Wasteland. Taking out my Expanse. They're just passing. They float a red in the upkeep. Red Blast on the Attunement. I guess I'm just gonna blink the Attunement. I'll attack. I'll play an Attunement. We'll blink some waves. We'll pass. There's the Anarchy. Okay, so let's see. I think I will start by firing off just one Attunement and see how that goes. We found the Blue Blast. So let's discard 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if they sandbagged an extra Red Blast after targeting our Attunement. It looks like they did not. There's a Lackey. Here's a Skirk Prospector. Let's exile your blockers. I guess the way I set up the priorities is it is not letting me do the blink thing. That's good to note for future reference. The time being of the essence, it is what it is. Attack with all creatures. Well, that was a grind. We did, I guess the game plan worked. Chain of Vapor was maybe a little bit questionable, but we got there in the end. All right. All right, we're on the draw. This seems like a 6 we can keep. Chain of Vapor could at least bounce a Goblin Lackey for a turn. The Seal of Cleansing deals with like survival of the fittest or other some such. Looks like it's going to be elves. All right, I guess we'll play the island. Maybe there's an argument for just Chain of Vaporing this elf right here. You know, I think it's a tempo play. What this does do is, like, if they play survival, they don't get the free activation. The Wall of Roots. Well, I thought it was going to be survival for a second. The Fintorn Elf. Okay, Swords to Plowshares. I think I need to get Seal of Cleansing out. So that's what I'm going to do. I mean, at this point, they have mana. And so we just got to try to turn off that survival engine. There's a Cradle. There's a Symbiote. There's a Deranged Hermit. So yes, they are going pretty wide. Island. Let's see. So we need to Swords the Symbiote. That's for sure. So they don't bounce the Deranged Hermit. They've got one card left. All right, I'll play Flooded Strand. Like, what would really be great is to top deck the Parallax Wave. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. All right, Swords is in. I mean, I could play out this other Seal of Cleansing, but I just... maybe I should have, because if they like play Survival here, I'll want to seal that, and then I won't have Seal up for my wave. But alternatively, it could be an extra card to discard to Attunement, but... It seems like they don't have... It seems like they don't have... What am I trying to say? It seems like they don't have Survival. I guess I'll fetch to Thin. So let's see. We can Intuition for Swords to Plowshares to buy like one more turn. Because this will be an attack for 5. So I guess we're doing that, huh? Multani's Acolyte. Sure. There's the Survival. Here's the activation. Yeah, so I could have the other Seal in play here, so this isn't very good. It was pretty low probability we'd get to the spot where we could discard the Attunement, so yeah, we should have thought about that one a bit more. But here's another Deranged Hermit. And okay, so even if I Swords the first one, I think it's quite lethal because, let's see, that'll be 8, 9. Yeah, and I'll have to take a damage to do it. So they got me with a fast Hermit there. All right, against elves. Well, Wrath of God can come in. Tsabo's Web can come out. And I think I'll just bring in a Chain of Vapor for the Decree of Silence to bounce Tormod's Crypts with. Although we do have the Sealables to answer that. But there is Parallax Wave synergy, and this is obviously a strong wave matchup. So I like that. Ugh, this hand. Well, we are on the play, and we have Chain of Vapor to answer like a Tormod's Crypt. It feels a little loose. On the other hand, Attunement could just deliver the goods. Like the turn to Attunement is pretty strong. So I'll play Flooded Strand and pass. Findhorn Elf. I'm not going to Chain of Vapor at this time. I'm going to crack for an island. Yeah, I want to save this for maybe some wave synergy or a Tormod's Crypt. I guess I don't like that. We're pretty far off from playing a Wrath of God here or any other double white spell. But maybe Attunement can deliver us. Multani's Acolyte. Okay. Wirewood Symbiote. Bounce the Multanis. Untap the Elf and play Aquarian Ranger. Untap the Elf again? No. Parallax Wave. Not a bad start. Let's pop the Attunement. These are some goodies. All right, a bunch of extra lands to discard here. I think one Ancient Tomb should be sufficient. So let's see, we'll probably play the Expanse, and so it's the old discard 4 lands here. Play the Expanse. Play the Attunement. And so we'll at least get a pretty solid Vapor Wave off next turn. The Return of the Acolyte. Untapping the Elf. There's the Multanis. Untapping the Elf. Another Symbiote. Untapping the elf. And an acolyte. They've got a full grip over there. Getting in for 2. So I'm kind of in a curious spot. So we could, like, if we replenish, assuming we find replenish, we kind of eat it to naturalize, but I guess that's okay. We can keep going. So I think we do have to see if we find replenish. So let's see what happens here. Wrath of God. That's a pretty good one too. All right, so how much do we want to commit here? How much? Because we probably need to go like Wrath of God this turn. Parallax Wave, Chain of Vapor next turn. This will deal with the Wildwood Symbiotes at least. So, see, probably Island, Intuition, Begrudgingly, Swords to Plowshares. I guess, I mean, we could discard Wrath of God, do the Parallax Wave shenanigan this turn. So maybe the extra Wrath is just a little clunky. So I could discard, like, the Swords and the Wrath. This mostly nukes their board. Maybe I discard the Opalescence, the Swords, and the Wrath. And this lets me like Intuition or Replenish. We kind of just eat it to Crypt though is the only thing. Gotta make a decision. What are we gonna do? I mean, they probably have Naturalize or something, right? So, with that in mind, all right, I think I'm going to discard the Intuition and the Swords. And I'm going to play the Wrath of God this turn. They're going to bounce the Multani and the Q Ranger. Eat the Wrath. Pass the turn. They do have a boatload of cards in hand. They kick it off with a Wall of Roots. Play a Llanowar Elf. And another Elf. There's the Replenish. So I think we're gonna Opal Wave, or sorry, Vapor Wave this turn. I guess I gotta watch my life total as it's getting a little low. But I think this should buy some time. All right, I'm doing it. All right, their board is exiled. Pass the turn. There's the Survival. And a Findhorn Elf. Frantic Search one time. It's not Frantic Search. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to play out the wave. I don't know what their 5 cards in hand could be. I'm scared to find out. Quirion Ranger. Llanowar Elf. Untap the Forest. Another Q Ranger. I feel like we're getting pretty lucky here because we're going to fade both Naturalize and Tormod's Crypt. Let's see. And so what do we have in here? I think it's just Opalescence. Don't need to tap the Ancient Tomb. But we will Replenish. And the opponent concedes. Wow. Okay. And I think we'll just run it back for game 3. I'd like to have the Decree of Silence in play, you know, when you play the Replenish, to answer like Tranquil Domains, Naturalizes, but I mean the Vaporwave synergy is a real thing. So I'm just gonna send it back. Oh my god, this hand is pretty slow. It does have the Decree. Is the opponent keeping? They are mulliganing. Well, this answers survival. Doesn't have a lot of other interaction, but it does intuition. Oh, this hand is pretty slow, but the opponent's mulliganing. Maybe this is a no-brainer mulligan. I mean, I guess the Decree doesn't really do anything, but I suppose the seal is all right. There's like no Swords to Plowshares or anything else to be found. What am I gonna do? I guess I think it's a pretty dicey hand. Yeah, it's just a long way away. We need to both Attunement into Parallax, Opal Wave, and like Intuition for Replenish or whatever. So this does look quite a bit better. Okay, we'll keep. Now what do we put back is the interesting question. I don't really want to put back a land, so it's probably just going to be Frantic Search. We could discard extra lands to Attunement. All right, here we go. The opponent is on a mulligan to 5. They're going to be low on resources. Turn 1 Symbiote. You can be sure that that's going to eat a Swords to Plowshares. Intuition can help set up our Opal Wave. The opponent has a turn 2 Multani's Acolyte. There's an Ancient Tomb. Well, now I wish I had played the Adarkar Wastes on turn 1. It's pretty important to think about those things with this deck, and I just didn't think at all about how much I might want to play an Attunement on turn 2, and now I've gotten punished. Okay, so with that in mind, how are we going to proceed? I think we're going to play the Adarkar Wastes this turn, and then we can follow it up with a Parallax Wave. That definitely took my eye off the prize with the mana tapping there. It looks like the opponent's just going to attack for 2 and pass. But we'll see. They still have another main phase. Nope, that's going to do it. Okay. Chain of Vapor, huh? So we're not exactly under threat of death here. So what does that mean? Does it mean I just want to play the... I think it means I want to play Attunement. We have Vaporwave next turn. So we'll take a heaping helping damage of here. A heaping helping of damage right here to get out the Attunement. And go down to 13. There's a Llanowar Elf. And a Wirewood Symbiote. And a Tormod's Crypt. Okay, good to know. Flooded Strand. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Well, we're probably gonna play Parallax Wave. And do some vapor waving. Okay. Let's do it. Here's the island. Take another fistful of damage to resolve this Parallax Wave. So I guess they get to save the Acolyte here. Chain of Vapor, targeting Parallax Wave. Yes, they do save the Acolyte. But their Elf and Symbiote are, you know, they're exiled. Aquarian Ranger. Into an Acolyte. Another wave. I think I have to play the wave. I guess we can avoid taking 2 damage, so that's good. Here it comes. Parallax Wave. I guess I'll give them the opportunity to not pay the Echo on this Multani's Acolyte. Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Exile the Aquarian Ranger. I guess I have to exile the Acolyte too. If it comes back, it's bad news, because they get to draw a card. But, like, also blanking their cradles seems pretty important. Well, we're lousy with waves. I guess I want to spin the Attunement and see if we're going to hit an Opalescence. We're not. But I can Intuition for it and play it because I have 7 mana. So 1 Intuition, wave, another Swords, a wave. Do I just want to ditch Attunement? It means we don't have a draw engine. It's also kind of bad into their Tormod's Crypt. It does kind of mean we're all in on them just not having a Naturalize, which seems pretty sus. So alternatively, I could just draw 2 Parallax. I guess I can just discard both waves. Play out a land. Play Intuition. Find the Opalescences. And play Opalescence. Get to attack. So I think I'll probably blink this in their end step. They're just going to pass the turn, it seems. So are they holding up Naturalize? If I exile the wave, they can exile Opalescence in response. No, because we can just blink it again and at least we get their board. So, I mean, I guess they don't have Naturalize. Seems hard to imagine, but it is what it is. Their boys are exiled. All right, I guess we're not naturalizing Opalescence. Basic planes, not the most exciting. Attack for 4. Add an attunement to the squad. Pass the turn. There's the Tranquil Domain. Well, we all knew that was coming. Let's see. This is gonna be rough because there's just one wave and one opal left in the deck. Yeah, maybe I need a stronger strategy against Tormod's Crypt. Let's see. So I can just blink the attunement. And then I don't have to pop it right now. And then there's just no way to hide the Parallax wave. I guess they don't have anything. All right. So we have some decrees in our deck. That would be pretty savage to get into play. Parallax wave. Okay. I think I can just pass. Collar of the Claw. That's a 2/2. And a Cradle. And a Morph. Okay. It's pretty threatening to our life total. There's the decree. So I could play the Parallax wave, exile both their lads, and then they kind of have to respawn with the triggers on the stack. Let's see if I could just draw Replenish or something. That would have put us in a spot. Like you could play Replenish, and then when they go to Crypt, you let that happen and then respond with the attunement. But just not doing a great job of drawing Replenish here. So they just let it happen. Interesting. Naturalize. Ugh. So that means we're just dead. Dang. I wonder what would happen if I spun attunement. A whole lot of nothing. All right. Yeah, that's going to do it, unfortunately. On to round 4. All right, here we go for round 4. I think we're going to have to mulligan this one-lander, even though Swords to Plowshares could buy us some time. This hand seems pretty decent. I think we have to put back the Decree of Justice, unfortunately. I mean, you could maybe make a case for the Opalescence. I mean, Replenish is just... Decree of Silence is a single card that is pretty good with Replenish, but we don't have a good way to get it in our graveyard. Although Opalescence is really only good with Parallax Wave. We're kind of assuming that this is a wave matchup. I'm sure that putting back Decree has to be correct. All right, here we go. What have we got? A Bloodstained Mire. It looks like Burn. Well, Decree can be pretty good against Burn. But we'll just have to Swords this Lavamancer for now. All right. At least Tsabo's web means we're not about to get ball lightninged. I think I definitely do have to play the web this turn. You know, I think I actually should have shuffled. I would like a better chance at drawing that Decree of Silence. Mog Fanatic. They're going to get in for 2. The good news is they only have 2 cards in hand. Wow. And we're going to be pretty much everything all rolled up here. Although the opponent can go over the top with burn spells. But here's an attunement for them to deal with for now. Alright, they're just going to pass. Well, the mother load would be to hit a decree here. We did not, but we hit a bunch of other things. So I'm just going to put the most power on board as possible. And replenish for a whole bunch. The opponent sees the writing on the wall. All right, this matchup can be pretty tricky. You just have to board out Ancient Tomb, which messes with a land count. But we can bring in the Hydroblast and the Spheres of Law. Now, normally, I would be boarding out Tsabo's web here. I guess I don't need to the way I have this mapped out. And I can just board out Chain of Vapor, since we have 3 Hydroblasts. Alright, so that works out pretty well then. I guess if they weren't a Mishra's Factory build, we could leave in the 2 Chain of Vapors. So this is the problem with having to board out your Ancient Tombs against Burn. I think we have to mulligan. This seems a lot better. We'll keep. And now, the tough question. What am I going to put back? I feel like it really cannot be Swords or Hydroblast. So I could put back a land. Maybe it's just Opalescence. The thing is, we don't really need double blue anyway, but I hate putting back Opalescence because it's impossible to find. It's like really hard to top deck. I think what I'm gonna do, I guess I shouldn't overthink this and just put back Opalescence and keep the wave. All right. A Bloodstained Mire into a Goblin Cadets. All right, well, that is one that I'm going to Swords to Plowshares. Now I have the regrets about not putting back the island. Mog Fanatic. Tsabo's Web, another Swords. Okay. They're going to stand up the factory. So I'm going to Swords the factory. And unfortunately, Hydroblast the Mog Fanatic. As otherwise, this is going to get in for a whole bunch of damage. We go to 19. Another wave. So, we are looking for a white source. Or an attunement. That's a Lavamancer. There's a Plains. Okay. So now, can we do the impossible and find an Opalescence? Seal of Fire. They just have 2 cards in hand, and we're at 19 life. That's pretty good. That's an island. So we could play out more lands, which I guess we will, and work towards Intuition plus Opal on the same turn. Frantic Search. All right, well, I'm just going to Frantic Search. Sphere of Law and Hydroblast. Those are good ones. So, what do we do? Definitely discard the island. I guess I can probably make do without the Hydroblast here, right? Sphere of Law is going to chew up most things they might do. Okay. Here it is, the mighty Sphere of Law. Incinerate. Pop off the bolt. Okay. And another bolt. And the seal. All right. Well, the good news is they're at a pretty low life total. That's not the good news. We're at a pretty low life total, and I don't like it one bit. I guess the good news is that when this Parallax wave runs out, this Grim Lavamancer still doesn't do anything. Swords to Plowshares. So that can stop a Ball Lightning. They're going to test the waters against Sphere of Law and find that Sphere of Law reigns supreme. There's an Adarkar Wastes. We can discard that to an Attunement or a Frantic Search at some point. A Mishra's Factory. Well, I'm glad we have the Swords to Plowshares. They get back their Lavamancer. Another Adarkar Wastes. It is a little bit tricky. Because if we play out an Opalescence, our Sphere of Law suddenly comes to life. And therefore can be hit by burn spells. So we'll have to dance around that. I'll play out the island. There's Intuition. All right. The first Adarkar Wastes is pretty free because Price of Progress only does 2 damage, assuming it's in their deck. I'll play out the Parallax Wave. Maybe I should Intuition right now and try to get around a Pyroblast. Man, I'd love to have this Decree in play. But I think it has to be Opalescence. All right, we have the Opalescence. They have a Wooded Foothills. And now we just need to be a little bit careful when we play this Opalescence and make sure that we don't get our Sphere of Law blown up. So I could wave the seal. I think I'll just start by attacking with everything. Maybe just the wave. See, if the wave is gone, that gives them a range to hit the Sphere of Law. Although if they fire a bunch of burn at the Sphere of Law, that seems like okay. I mean, I could target 1, 2, 3, and then they get to finish off the sphere. So I guess that doesn't seem very good. I think I am going to maybe just attack with both. Because inevitably, I'm going to have to blink this Parallax Wave. Okay, and they just choose not to block. No attacks. All right. Let's try this Frantic Search and see how it goes. Nothing too exciting. Untap some lands. I think what I'd really like is a second Parallax Wave. Or a Decree of Silence. There's a Replenish. Okay, well that'll give me a second wave, and that seems pretty good. So let's do that. Alright, the opponent sees the writing on the wall. Alright, this is it, the moment of truth. Can we succeed in going 4-1, or will we have to accept mediocrity at 3-2? This kind of hand is the classic conundrum on the play. If we draw land, it's extremely good, and if we don't, it's extremely bad. I think this hand has enough upside where if we hit the land, we're pretty darn golden, so I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna lead on Flooded Strand. Basic Forest. I guess we're gonna be playing against Enchantress again. Alright, Ancient Tomb, one time. Well, we drew a land. That's probably close enough. I think I'll play out the Flooded Strand. Here's the Sanctum, and I assume this is an Enchantress's presence. A Sylvan Library. It's a bit more agreeable. Demiri's Guile. Okay. Alright, so I guess I'm not going to crack the fetch lands. If we draw a land, we can just intuition. If we don't draw a land, we kind of have to attunement. And we did not draw land. So I'm going to go for the attunement. And then hopefully we can just hit a land and maybe something else good in the next 4 draws. All right, they're tapping some mana. 5 mana to be precise. There's the Argothian Enchantress. A Wild Growth. At least it's on a tapped land. And then they have to pass the turn. All right. Show me something good. An island. Well, it's a land, so that's a good start. We'll try the attunement. Seal of Cleansing, eh? It's probably an okay place to start. So we can discard Decree, Attunement, Seal, Attunement. We can play Frantic Search and see if that gets us any further. Not really. Okay. Swords to Plowshares, not looking great. Does Chain of Vapor do anything? Maybe. I think we really don't need 2 intuitions. We just need to intuition one more time and win the game. So I'll just take a chance on Chain of Vapor here. I'll untap 3 of my lands, play the island, play the Replenish. And then it's just this Sylvan Library, kind of inconsequential here. But I think I'm going to seal it anyway. And it at least gives them less mana off the Sanctum. And so they can maybe work through the Decree of Silence here. But we can just Replenish again next turn. We got it rolled up. So this, I think, is a pretty okay spot. I mean, unless they can play like 3 1-mana things and then follow it up with something good. Well, that's the kind of 1-mana play that I was talking about. I'm a little confused. Did Wild Growth just target the Windswept Heath? Oh, no, got countered by Decree of Science. I'm so silly. Okay. That's why that big enchantment's in play, to counter stuff. A Sterling Grove. That's going to get countered. And finally, an Opalescence. That's going to get countered too. Okay. Ancient Tomb. That's only 6 mana, which is unfortunately not enough to let me really go crazy. Though if we hit a Frantic Search off these attunements or the Opal Wave, that would be very good. So none of this is it. And now I'm just trying to think if it's worth sandbagging the land. I don't think the Chain of Vapor is going to do much. All right. Okay, at least these are some more things. I mean, do I need to save my Opalescence? Ugh. If they manage to get out a Parallax Wave, it's pretty bad. But I suppose I could seal my own Opal in response. Okay. So I'm going to play Replenish. And this should at least buy us another go around here. So I think I am going to seal the Miri's Guile to control their draw steps. And then I'll save the other seal for my own Opalescence. But ideally, they just would not resolve a Parallax Wave this turn. Okay, the opponent calls it quits. So we'll just have to recall our sideboarding strategy from round 1 and bring in some Annuls and Abeyances. Cut the Swords to Plowshares. And I guess we're going to cut this Tsabo's Web for another Chain of Vapor. That's a Hydroblast. I mean, you could maybe do something crazy and play Defense Grid to stop opponent's Abeyances. But Chain of Vapor does answer Tormod's Crypt, which is certainly something they could have. I think that's what we discussed last time we played against Enchantress. So this hand is pretty interesting. I think with the Tsabo's Web to cycle, and then we at least have like Seal of Cleansing, we just need to draw an island at some point. And if the opponent is on a Presence hand instead of an Argothian hand, we got it all pretty rolled up. Brushland into Miri's Guile. Okay, Ancient Tomb into Tsabo's Web. There's the island. Cracking the Windswept Heath. Is this an Argothian Enchantress? It's a Sterling Grove. Okay. There's an Intuition. So. I could just seal their Sterling Grove here. I could Intuition for Decree Opal. Could also like just play Attunement. I could Intuition for Decree Opal Wave. And then probably get like Decree Opal. I mean, they only have 3 cards in hand. I kind of just want to seal the Sterling Grove. There is a thing where if they get double Sterling Grove out, it kind of messes things up. But, you know, maybe I should just be intuitioning here. On the other hand, seal on this Sterling Grove. We're really not under any pressure. I mean, it seems like the plan is to crack this Sterling Grove and get an Enchantress's Presence. Also, I want to activate this Seal of Cleansing before I play Replenish. I guess that factored into my decision. Well, there's the Argothian. And here's a Wild Growth. And there's a Tormod's Crypt. Well, that's going to make things interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to play the Attunement. So maybe I was supposed to play Seal of Cleansing and just not activate it. If we went for the end of turn intuition play, we would have gotten hit pretty hard by the Crypt. If I let them keep the Seal, it's like an extra point of mana for their Serra's Sanctum. There's a Decree. So I have 5 mana to work with. I mean, I could just play Replenish and get this Tormod's Crypt. I do have another one. Maybe they crypt me in response, and then I activate Attunement. Okay, I'm gonna do it. The thing is the opponent kind of might as well activate Crypt. But they probably shouldn't. So they do activate Crypt. So we'll let Tormod's Crypt resolve. We'll activate Attunement. We'll discard some of these things. These seem fine. We have ourselves a Decree and an Attunement. That seems like a good place to be. And then, thanks to this Frantic Search, we're going to be able to Intuition plus Frantic Search next turn. There's a Presence. That gets countered. And they just pass the turn. Wow, and there's a Parallax Wave. Okay. So we have 6 mana, and that's going to be 7 with Frantic Search. So let's tap these guys. Let's play Frantic Search. Oh my lord, I did it in the wrong flipping order. You're supposed to Intuition and then Frantic Search. Okay. Well, we'll discard these guys. Untap some lands. I think it's okay because we have Attunement at least, right? This is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll play Intuition. Target my opponent. Use up my colorless mana. We'll get a couple opals and a Decree. It's just going to be a full house here. And then unfortunately, I do have the Replenish rolled up. Maybe I was a little greedy there because I could have like played around Abeyance and... No, we have Abeyance covered with a Decree. So it's all just as rolled up as it could be. Discard some of these things. Play the Replenish. Okay, and the opponent concedes. Nice. All right, we did it. 4-1 with Replenish. Let's have a look at the deck and talk about what happened. All right, well, what happened is we beat Enchantress 2-1, Goblins 2-1, Elves 1-2, Burn 2-0, and Enchantress 2-0. Beating Enchantress doesn't really come as a huge surprise, as we are all in on Opal Wave, and they are a deck that is all enchantments. And, you know, we play more copies of Replenish and Opal Wave than they do. I guess the Chain of Vapor plan was reasonably effective, and we did what we intended against Goblins, and did some Parallax, some Vapor Waving, that's what we want to call it. Those were some close, grindy games against a tough opponent, but in the end, Replenish did prevail. Elves. The problem with Elves from the Replenish standpoint is I guess it's a pretty favorable matchup, but the combination of Naturalize / Tranquil Domain and Tormod's Crypt is extremely difficult to beat. And I don't quite know what to do about that. There is maybe an argument for trying to play Stifle instead of Chain of Vapor with these Parallax waves. Maybe, as I mentioned at the top, part of Chain of Vapor's appeal is bouncing Gloom against Moneyball Black, which can be extremely devastating to our game plan of activating Parallax waves a bazillion times in one turn. Burn, I guess I historically thought was a pretty tricky matchup for Blue-White Replenish, but also I didn't used to board out all of my Ancient Tombs, which is probably a bit of a no-brainer. It is pretty scary playing a 21 land deck based on playing 4-drops, but this time we did manage to prevail. So I guess that's the rundown. Not a lot of control in the league metagame right now. I mean, you do see some Dreadnought and Blue-White land still, but I think it's pretty tricky for the diversity of powerful aggro decks, spearheaded by Moneyball Black's, warping effect on the metagame, making it difficult to play those blue spells. So, in conclusion, I would say I did not miss Meddling Mage one bit, or Exalted Angel, and that maybe a little bit of tweaking to figure out how not to be completely bricked by one copy of Tormod's Crypt would, be pretty awesome. Although we did manage to do the very thing against Tormod's Crypt in the final round, the final coup with the Attunement, where we played a Replenish to only return Seal of Cleansing, only to have our opponent pop their Tormod's Crypt, only for us to let it resolve, and then activate Attunement with Replenish still on the stack, and dump Decree of Silence and some other stuff into play. All right, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these crazy, grindy matchups, well, be sure to like and subscribe. And, I'm trying to make more pre-modern content. All right, thank you very much.